Sugarless Amazons around the globe. As always, we are traveling. This time, even though I'm talking to a person in the United States, I will be taking you to a beautiful area in the Eastern Mediterranean zone, to Lebanon. Hello, Doctor. Am I saying it correctly? Eli or Elie?
Both, Elie in Lebanon, but I go here in the States as Eli, it'd be easier.
Okay, because I'm in Europe, can I call you Elie?
Elie, perfect, yeah, one L.
Bonjour, Elie.
Bonjour.
You have a French background when it comes to language, but what was your mother tongue? What was the first language you learned?
Arabic, Lebanese dialect, which is very different than a spoken in the written language.
How would I greet you? How can I greet you in Arabic with Lebanese accent or?
Well, in Lebanon, they mix French, Arabic, and English. They say a lot of bonjour. They say marhaba, which is
merhaba. Perfect. Everybody understands that. Thank you for joining me, and thank you for agreeing to do this show, even though it's by the ladies for the ladies. But there are so many subjects that a man like you can cover. And you coming from a background of a big family, most probably. You have a mother, a sister, am I right? You also have a sister.
Right.
I would like to talk to you a little bit about the time in Lebanon, when you grew up, when you were a boy, and as you were growing up. What was the typical traditional food of that time and zone? And is there something specific that you encountered when you moved to USA, which was very difficult for you to understand and to continue applying?
Yeah, I was born in the early 80s in a town in Lebanon called Zahle, which is in the Bekaa Valley. It's very surrounded by mountains, very beautiful place. But we were also in the middle of a big civil war. While I wasn't very conscious of those times, it was I have very good memories of it. You know, my grandparents lived with us. We were like 4 kids, and my parents and my mom always took care of all of us. We rarely ate out. That time it was just always home cooking, whether it's my grandmother cooking or my mom cooking. And eating a lot of the traditional Mediterranean Lebanese food, you know, a lot of the stews and meats and fish and lamb and nose to tail approach, goat, get a lot of goat, yes. So there's a lot of nose to tail that took for granted as common, you know, liver and different organs and brain and things like that, and stuffed intestines. So grew up with that cuisine. It was very rich in animal protein, and there's also a lot of vegetables. That are
comes to mind baba ganoush.
Yeah, eggplant. Yeah, that's a staple.
Or aubergine, as they say.
Yes, aubergine, right?
Aubergine. I love it.
So,
I think it's one of the most beautiful side dishes and can be ketonized because it's keto. If you look at it, it doesn't have any ingredient. If you don't add hummus or something like that, it's keto when it's only with roasted eggplant.
And we have it sometimes as a dish where you stuff it, you fry it or broil it, and you stuff it with ground beef mixture, and then it's tomato sauce on top of it. So that eggplant that is cooked is really flavorful for sure.
When did you have it last time?
In the summer when I visited Lebanon, I had it. Yeah, it was good.
Here, you visited Lebanon.
Yes, I went this.
Please tell us a little bit about it, because people cannot travel and people are thinking like, will I ever be able to travel? But it seems to be like some people are still traveling. And what's the situation?
There's a will, there's a way. You can find a way. I mean, you just do what you have to do to.
Did you fly?
Yeah, flew through Turkey, not too far from Greece and Lebanon.
There is a huge influence, both Turkish and ancient Greek and Roman culture in Lebanon. Yes. But when you look it back, I sent you a couple of subjects that I want to cover, especially when it comes to this family. You mentioned your mother and grandmother cooked. But, you know, these family meals, for example, for some people it's lunch, for some people it's dinner, but there's always one meal where family gathers and everybody eats. But who prepares these meals? And did you ever prepare anything, or you learned to cook after you started living alone in the USA?
My mom has been always the main cook because my grandmother had gotten older. But lunch usually is the biggest meal because that's typically when we come back from school and it's a big meal. Dinner tends to be more leftovers unless there's party or invitation. Even breakfast, like on the weekend, we would gather together and have a lot of different breakfast food, you know, including like raw lamb liver or goat liver. And there's a lot of also dough and carb related stuff. There's something called za'atar, which is thyme that is mixed with olive oil and put on dough and cooked in the oven. It's really tasty and delicious. And there's a lot of cheeses, you know.
Sounds delicious. It cannot be wrong.
Yeah. Big halloumi cheese. I know it's more Greek, but it's made all the time.
It's Cypriot, not Greek. Greek is feta, more feta and gravy.
It's true. Cyprus, yeah.
So when you learned to cook, before, during your time in Lebanon, or now in USA?
I was a Boy Scout. So growing as a Boy Scout, you know, you get these, I guess, I forgot what they call it, but one of them was a cook. So I always loved eggs. So the first thing I remember making was cracking eggs and cooking eggs. So I used to do that a lot. Grilling, like helping my mom with grilling, whether putting the coal and then putting the skewers and, you know, doing this. But I didn't do any elaborate cooking until later in life. So when I moved to the States, most of my food has been turned into junk food and fast food, and you know, you get sick. But occasionally you have nostalgia for certain foods. So I would call my mom and ask her, hey, how do you make this dish or that dish? And try to get the ingredients and do my best. It doesn't come out the same, but you know, it came improved over time. And then when I got healthy on my own, you start naturally want to cook at home because that's the only way to control what you're eating. And did a lot of stuff, you know, not necessarily Mediterranean, although I do that sometimes. It's most turned into more basic cooking, mixed meat and vegetables, and have different spices. But I still have things that I love to do. These aromatic spices we use in pressure cooker, making broth or chicken when you pressure cook the whole chicken, make chicken soup out of it, and you know, there's a lot of different dishes. I sometimes play with.
That's interesting. On greekgoesketo, we usually try to avoid chicken because of this omega-6 to omega-3 ratio, but once in a while we do treat ourselves with duck, for example, duck roast.
Yes.
Something like that. But there are always those small differences between diets. In USA, it's a very different keto, what we do in the European, especially in this Eastern European area. But your approach is very similar to ours, because sometimes on Twitter and on other social media, you're posting your meals, and I can see a lot of eggs. I can see that you don't count them, like I will eat 2. Why would you eat only 2? You can eat as many as your appetite allows. Yeah. So you mentioned your mother, you would call her. Is she in the USA now also, or?
She's in Lebanon right now. She visits. She was here last year with my dad, and this past summer I was there. And so it's always nicer when we visit because it's more, she's in her environment and she can spoil us, if you will, the way she wants to, and cook things the right way. And so
you often talk about healing metabolically, and this is what you do. This is what you do with your clients, with your patients. Do you call them more clients or patients? Because you are a doctor, even though you are performing some keto coaching, you are first doctor and you want to see their health condition, actually the start point. So you want to see their exams, etc.
I call them, it makes clients, the ones that are more engaged in their medication changes and really hands-on medical, I call them clients, but really I become more friends with my clients or slash patients, because we have this kind of weekly interaction and relationship to heal, because it takes years to get to that point. It's not going to reverse overnight, and habit change takes time. So so it's just that kind of relationship I have with them that's different than when I'm in the hospital or at a clinic, or that you see people briefly for a short period of time. So it's a unique relationship for sure.
Do you ever meet them personally, or are you only working online?
Right now, I'm only working online with this line of work. I can reach more people, people from anywhere. I can help them more, But sometimes I do meetups. If there's some patients I have are around, I can meet them just for social. So.
But let's go a little bit back to Lebanon. Traditionally, people in this area are not very obese, at least not in younger years. Whenever I met somebody especially from the islands, Greek islands, or these people are very healthy, they live very long. Usually even there's a respect towards elderly people. But did you notice back then when you moved difference, and now when you go back to visit, did the people get
huge difference?
Obese?
Huge difference. It actually makes me sad when I go back now. When I was growing up, as kids, I don't remember, maybe one or two overweight kid or friend in the class. And then most adults weren't really overweight, and everybody looked healthy, although we ate carbs. And I could tell people the problem was never the rice or the potatoes. It's usually when you ate and damage your body so much that these food become more harmful when you're already broken. So I think when I left the States in Lebanon in 2000, everybody was most people were lean and healthy. But that was the time when McDonald's and Burger King and these fast food companies started invading Lebanon, and the whole culture kind of changed. A lot of people, both parents now the economy isn't good, so both parents have to work more, and cooking became less of an important thing. And people, if there's no in-laws or grandmother to help, they're just getting things fast food. So now I go back, kids are overweight and obese, and it makes me sad. And adults are huge obese. I have a lot of friends, and I look back, and they used to be very thin. Now they're so overweight. It's not about the looks. I mean, nobody cares if it just looks. It's just the health.
Everybody cares. Unfortunately, this is the only thing. Why keto became popular in the world of fitness, let's say, it's for cutting. They only care for cutting. They don't care what it does metabolically also, and other benefits or things. For doing cyclical keto and cycling so often, going in and out of ketosis. Keto is not only about being in ketosis. It's just about teaching your body to heal from that. Do you agree?
Yeah, 100%. And that mindset makes or breaks whether people succeed or not. If you're doing any lifestyle for looks, most of the time it's not going to be important enough for you to stick to it unless you really have really want it so bad. But most people feel sick and they also want to lose weight, but they do it for many other reasons. And then when they get healthier, the weight loss follows, and they get all the benefits from keto, whatever lifestyle they choose to do.
But doing a clean keto, it's very different. There's this dirty keto, there's lazy keto, they gave so many names. I can't. There's epilepsy keto, which is the original keto, which is this 50% fat, which is very unhealthy for everybody else. It's not even good for epilepsy patients for longer period, because now recently there are studies which are showing that even upping a little bit protein and lowering fat still will keep you in ketosis and still will give you benefits of keto, even if it's for epilepsy.
Yeah, it's really, ketogenic or being in ketosis is simply being a fat burner for energy primarily, and have ketones as a byproduct. So all you have to do is lower the carbohydrates and you're there. So, I mean, when I did keto initially, traditional keto, I did low carb, very high fat, moderate protein. I did that. I did great, but eventually I had issues with it. Like I had a rash from keto rash that made me very itchy, and I changed to more higher protein, lower fat, and and that made it go away. So I know if you're low on carbs, you're in ketosis. Now the tweaks and how you manipulate these macros depends what you're looking for, what you need to accomplish in your health.
My husband wrote a great article on greekgoesketo, and I'm going to send you a link when you have time to take a look. It's called Stop Counting Macros, Eat More Meat. People do not eat enough of protein in a portion. But do you think the portion plays more role than macros, the portion of protein?
I mean, I always say, I tell people all the time, especially more recently, that eat more protein, eat more protein, eat more protein. Stop counting it. You don't need to count anything. Just kind of minimize the carbs, eat more protein, and whatever fat comes with it, that's fine. Just kind of keep eating protein until you're full, and that's the only way you're going to really succeed, by not being hungry, being satiated, so you can eat less frequently and not have cravings. And there's so many aspects of it. But the problem with the US, we're so detached from the source of protein. Like I grew up, my uncle and the whole family would slaughter, sheep, and then we eat nose to tail. And then you go to the butcher, the animals are hanging, and we're very connected to the animal. We raise them well, we respect them, and then at the end of their life, we honor them by eating the whole thing. Here, if they see organs or they see head or they see they get creeped out. They just it's just a different they just want a clean ribeye. I mean, I cook a lot of ribeyes, but they want to, if it's not beautiful and clean, they get weirded out by it. Versus us more culturally, we enjoy everything and we eat it, and it's more nutritious too.
Head to tail. That's very good to hear. This is important to understand. This is the way you respect the natural cycle of feeding. If you are eating an animal, you're eating it with a respect, and you know that you are going to benefit from it, you are going to thrive, and then you will be able to help other members of the family. But when it comes to living in USA and shopping, you mentioned butcher shops. When Apollonas, my husband, works with American clients, he's a nutritional therapist, so he also works like you online. When he gives them as a first intro to the meal plan where they're gonna shop, they say, but this doesn't exist in my town. There isn't a farmer's market, there isn't a butcher shop, a specialized, and they can't find lamb or veal. Doesn't exist in USA. I don't know why. I don't know how do they even have butter and milk if they don't have veal, because it's a product of veal farming. So where do you shop? You live in Texas. There's a lot of meat and tradition of meat, mainly beef, which is good for you because it's ruminant. And for us, this is what we prefer also in Mediterranean, keto Mediterranean diet. But do you go to farmer's market? Where do you get the free range eggs? Or do you ever take some raw dairy? I know that milk's not keto, but some dairy which is fermented, but can be fermented with raw, especially goat milk. For example, goat milk has enormous benefits for human health. So where do you shop personally?
Yeah, actually, I came this morning. I was at the farmer's market on the Saturday, so I got some pasture-raised eggs, and this guy that I like, he has a lot of chicken, and they're just roaming around. So there's a lot of chicken in the stores. I mean, eggs in the store, but whenever possible, I try to get it from our farmer's market. There is a big market for pasture-raised eggs, so they exist in supermarkets. I just don't know how
they're expensive.
Yeah,
they're much.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, right. Eggs are the pasture-raised egg. I mean, you get a carton of eggs maybe when it's just typical one, maybe $2-3. But when you get pasture-raised eggs, a dozen is could be $7, could be much more expensive. But still, eggs more cheaper than meat. Meat at farmers market or so. There's plenty of odd things. I've gotten beef tongue before from farmers market. you get liver and different organs, chicken hearts and chicken liver. And so I have those in the freezer. I also got duck eggs today, which I discovered recently, and I love the huge and they're delicious. So I love duck eggs. So whenever I find,
sorry, is there a chance you can find quail eggs?
yeah, you see, I mean, you're not going to go to the store and find them, but you go to farmers markets, you will find quail eggs, duck eggs, a lot of chicken eggs.
This is interesting. They're small. They're like small nutritional bombs. One quail egg has the power of 4 hen eggs when it comes to minerals and vitamins. Yeah. You should really consider comparing this. And then, you know, it's so compressed in one small quail egg. If you see them in farmers.
Yeah, I've had them at sushi places. Like sometimes I'm having sashimi and they put a raw egg yolk from the quail egg yolk. I love it. It's delicious.
Do you eat them raw yolks?
Oh yeah, I love them raw. I mean, I cook the white. We're not here. Eggs are more in fridges, but I've grown up where eggs are just outside. In the US, I guess, I don't know, the cleaning process and the power washing, I think forces bacteria maybe in. So they keep them in the fridge to prevent, I guess, spoiling, from what I understand. But yeah.
About meat, do you go to butcher shop or you shop only from the farmer's market and that's it? Because they say that the quality of meat sold in the supermarket is so low that it should be together with the processed food.
Yeah, so I go to a place called, well, general store, Whole Foods, which is a more, more organic and local sourced. So the meat I get is usually sourced within call it 100 miles of the place. So it's not factory made generally, at least the beef. So as much as possible, I get pasture raised beef or grass-fed beef. Farmers markets have a lot of options, so sometimes I get it from there. There are butchers, there are like even Lebanese butchers, you find them here. Oh. And I've gotten goat and even like I get the whole goat liver or lamb liver and cut it up and saute it. And so I just have to drive a little far to get that. So there are options. I mean, I live in Houston, which is multi-ethnic. So even if it's not Lebanese or Arabic, you can always find Chinese markets and a lot of Asian markets that have a lot of options for sure.
You originally came to New York. You said, I remember in the year 2010, I had a conference in New York related to my profession. I'm an artist, graphic artist. So I attended the conference and I spent some 15 days and then I wanted to stay a little bit longer and ended up whole month in New York City. And you mentioned in one of the other interviews, it's like a melting pot. When you arrive, it's best to arrive first to New York because it feels like the whole world. And then
everybody's
tell me a little bit about those first days when you arrived. Back then you were not still keto. What did you eat? Did you go to ethnic restaurants, which are very affordable? This is what I did. I went to Bosnian restaurants to eat kebab, which is something like kebab. You know what's the kebab? Because I knew they will be using lamb. They won't be using pork because I'm not eating pork, but it's like really easy to eat old-fashioned way and to have the feeling of back home. Doesn't matter where you're from Europe, from Asia, from any other continent. Do you remember those years when you lived
in where you when I was 18? So I initially went to Brooklyn. It was Bay Ridge area. So it's heavy on Arabic population. So initially, when you hit a new culture, you have a culture shock. So you regress. You try to find your.
That's why I went to Queens.
Yeah, I mean, Queens.
I went to Queens because I'm Croatian and Greek at the same time. Because
so that you were at home.
I needed to go there, but you're right. I went to Brooklyn as well.
Yeah, so I would look for Arabic places and eat my food because again, I have nostalgia for it. But I also started getting introduced to, Chinese food was a foreign concept for me. So I would go to the Chinese food places and eat that and find that delicious. But slowly I got exposed to American. Like I did not know what a bagel was or a roll or peanut butter was a foreign thing for me, so I stayed with my aunt initially, so she would have home cooked Lebanese food. That was good. But the breakfast food, which was like milk for me, was I would drink warm milk, hot milk in Lebanon, and eat just cheese and eggs. But all of a sudden, there's a lot of cereal and juices. To start eating these heavy carbs, which I didn't make much of it. I mean, this is what it was. So a lot of bagels and muffins and all these things that I became hooked to it. And then McDonald's and Taco Bell. And so slowly the convenience of it while you're trying to figure it out in life and you're young, going to college, taking buses. So you just pick whatever on the way and you slowly develop these bad eating habits.
It's very difficult to study medicine, especially in a foreign language, since you grew up with Arabic and French, and then you moved to USA, and this requires a lot of effort because it's just like for me now, I feel so comfortable talking to you because I don't have to worry how I'm pronouncing things. You will not judge me because you are also a person whose English is not the first language, but eventually we get used to it and we get comfortable with it. But it's difficult to study those long hours. And many times during my university times, the academy, I remember I would spend the whole night with like tons of coffee, like liters and liters of coffee. Did you drink a lot of coffee? Because I know in Arabic culture, tea is more present than coffee. Coffee is just once a day, the small, we call it.
Yeah, the Turkish coffee. Yeah. I never liked coffee growing up, so I didn't drink it. Even in college, undergrad, I did not drink coffee. Actually, would rather sleep than I would have tea, but I hated coffee. But it wasn't until medical school when I have to stay up a little later, and so develop a dependence on coffee, and I started enjoying it, and now I love coffee. It's part of my one of my hobbies is to coffee shops and drinking coffee.
The subject of sweetener. Do you use any, and do you eat keto desserts?
I don't. The short answer is I don't add any sweeteners. I don't like the flavor profile of those sweets, so I'd rather have a little honey with some cottage cheese or Greek yogurt if I want something sweet or for any particular reason, but it's rare.
Or labne, maybe labne.
Labne, yeah, I love the labne. I like it salty.
Best thing. That's the best thing, and we have it always in our home. We have goat labne, which is rare.
That's the best. That's more tart and it's delicious. Labne is basically the drained yogurt.
It's drained.
Don't know.
Double drained from Greek yogurt. Greek yogurt is drained.
Yeah, it becomes
further you go. It's the best thing. But you don't recommend also keto dessert. You don't recommend it to your trainees. Let's call them trainees or clients.
I don't encourage them to, but sometimes I have to be realistic. People who are highly dependent on junk food and they're not able to go meet me where I am, obviously. So in transition, and as they get used to it, doing less bad options is to help them in the long run. So in the short term, sometimes I give them tips about using sweeteners like stevia or something like that, or using keto desserts just to kind of transition away from real food. But I always tell them these things are going to stop. This is just a crutch until you get rid of this carb addiction.
And what about keto bread?
They're fun. They especially when you have kids and you want to try to improve the health of the family and moving away from traditional food. I've made the keto bagel, basically the almond flour and some cheese and salt, and so there are rooms for them. They're time consuming. I don't eat them too much, but I think if I have kids and want to have them those flavor profiles or do dough that is not based on regular flour, so there's a lot of options. There's so much. I mean, people think it's restrictive. It's actually a lot more options. You just have to change your mindset about it.
But treats, let's talk about snacking between the meals. This is what we in the Mediterranean zone, we call mezze. Do you call it the same? So
very similar. Well, maza is maza is basically all the food that comes before the food. There's a lot of when you
those
go
are
to
the starters.
restaurants, yeah, the culture is very generous in food. When you go to Lebanon, everybody wants to force feed you everything. So let's say the main dish is lamb or skewers or anything like that. But before that, you got all these small multiple dishes from different things, hummus, baba ganoush, different pastries and dough stuff and potatoes and
Olives.
pita bread, olives, salad, fattoush, different salads. So you actually get so stuffed before even the main course comes. And then after that, you get like a whole table of fruit that is complimentary. So you're done, you're like, in a coma almost from neither. But we're not snackers. At least I grew up not a snacker. But slowly it changed. I can, I remember.
How many meals a day do you eat?
Right now, one or two.
One or two. What about clients? Do you start with 3 meals because everybody thinks it's like breakfast, lunch, dinner? Or you tell them that those fasting periods are the best periods to utilize the full benefits of going low carb? I will not even say keto, low carb.
Yeah, so it depends where they start. So people who are really messed up metabolically, I don't want them to start fasting right away, because what happens, they fast, they get really hungry, then they crash and they start binging, and it kind of goes in a vicious cycle. So first I tell them, you got to focus on fixing your hunger first. So you got to have eating full, satiating food. So that could be 3 meals or 2 meals. It doesn't matter. Don't worry about fasting first few weeks. Just adapt to higher protein, much lower carbohydrates diet. And then once you get comfortable with that, getting your electrolytes, you slowly start shrinking your feeding window and, start into this fasting though. Eventually, everybody gets into fasting naturally. They're so full from eating real food that they don't even need more than 2 meals a day. And then the longer fast, I use it as a tool. People who are stuck or they're really trying to reverse things. So it's very person dependent, but I think some sort of at least 16-hour fasting, I find it is, should be minimum once you're in that zone of you're adapted.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever work with your family members? Did anybody try to follow you on the ketogenic path of your family? Maybe a sister?
Yeah. So my sister, I worked with her a couple of years ago. She had some weight issues, and she was one of my first kind of clients when I started to switch to that. I helped her with her friend, and we went through that phase of eliminating carbohydrates, increasing protein, and I just kind of was practicing my style and found a lot of benefit. But she was one of the few where just traditional keto, she wasn't losing weight. She lost initial 10, 15 pounds, call it, or
liquid, mainly water. This is
yes. And then she felt great.
Not metabolized.
Yeah. So she felt great, but she stopped losing weight. No matter how she was 0 carb, she was not losing weight. It took her a lot of long fasts, 24, 48, 72 hours to break through these barriers and then nuts were an issue. Too much cheese was an issue for her. Some people don't have a problem, but for her, these extra fats became a problem.
Here is what my husband says about nuts and dairy in general when it comes to metabolizing fat. Those foods are designed by nature to fatten animals. Nuts are fattening animals such as bear or some other animal which hibernates. While dairy is supposed to, milk in general, supposed to fatten the babies, the infants, to make them grow. So if you want to do the opposite thing from growth, to shrink a little bit, you need to stay away for a period of time from these foods, and you can without problem. It's not like you will miss anything nutritionally. They are coming as a second phase later as allowed. There isn't forbidden food, but there's only forbidden periods if you want to do it properly. This is at least what he does. And what
some people get stuck. because as they eliminate their bad snacks and eating carbs, they're asking for snacks, and you kind of sometimes tell them, okay, in the short term, you can eat better snacks like nuts and cheese while you get rid of the other ones. At least that's what I tell them. But what ends up happening, if they don't deal with the emotional eating part of why they do it, then they get attached to too much cheese and too much nuts, and they can't lose weight. And then you really have to remove that.
It's like we like to give some names to diets. How do you call your approach when you nowhere in your website I've seen the word keto? It's like you mentioned, like this is not everybody has to do keto, but everybody has to do a type of low carb.
Right.
So what do you say to your clients? And have you ever worked with a woman? You've worked probably with many of them, but one particular that you can tell us as an example of her progress, because women usually they try on their own and then they fail.
Yes.
And then they contact professionals.
I shy away from using buzzwords, although I eat mostly carnivore. I done keto. I believe in all of them, but I look at them as tools. So people get turned off when you call it keto. They say, no, I don't want to do that. It's too hard. I can't eat this much fat, and because they misunderstand what it means. So I tell them, if you eat, all you want to do is eat real food that is out of nature. You want to focus on animal protein. So I've called my approach is a whole food animal protein based diet that is very low in carbohydrates, and that's a spectrum. That could be completely traditional ketogenic, or it could be carnivore, it could be paleo, it could be anywhere in between. So, and then that goes by people preference and the progress. You start somewhere, and in a way everybody ends up being in ketosis if we actually test them, because of the very low carbohydrates. And some people start testing by themselves, and although I'm not calling it keto, they are in ketosis. So that's why, I mean, because I want to appeal to the masses, I don't want to call it or going to limit myself to one word. So it works, because when I used to be more dogmatic. When I did keto, I thought keto is the only way. When I did carnivore, I thought carnivore is the only way, because you see so much benefit. But then realize it's just really a spectrum, and it's about making progress, not about being perfect. So, and that's how. So for women, I have a lot of women clients, and they actually, most of them tend to be women, and the problem with women is they put themselves last, and they take care of their families, and there's a lot of stress and between jobs and kids and things like that, and there's a lot of emotional eating that I see, and then working with them is always eye-opening, because we always have to address that emotional eating of things. And I always find them also replace the carbs with nuts and cheese, and they get stuck, but they always make progress, and I love seeing them progress. One particular woman, she was obese and has type 2 diabetes. We had 15 years of diabetes on insulin and all of it, and she's tried many things and just failed and felt miserable. But working with her slowly over a few months, taking away carbohydrates, replacing with animal protein, eating whatever vegetables she wants, and slowly took her off medications and lost 20 kilos. I mean, she was short, so 20 kilos for her was a huge deal. So then became basically right now drug-free. She's not on any drugs, 15 years of diabetes completely reversed. And she's maintaining a lifestyle that is definitely ketogenic. She eats no carbohydrates, and she's heavy on meat. So high protein, moderate fat, low carbohydrates, which if I have to put it, that's probably my preferred approach. High protein, moderate fat, low carbohydrates. Find it works for almost everybody. So yeah, she's now at a weight she's never been since she was very young, and now she's so happy, like she's helping everybody around her, sees it, and everybody wants to know what she does. And then I have many other women who have done the same, especially with weight. Postmenopausal women get keto doesn't do them well, like traditional keto, because they end up overeating fat, and fat for them, for whatever reason, men have a easier time losing weight no matter what. As long as they make a change, they just start losing weight. women with all the hormones going on, and they get stuck, and a lot of times they have to lower their fat.
It's different for different age, isn't it? For a woman
Yes.
in the young years and during the menstrual cycles, or the women in perimenopause or menopause, or
Yes, yes.
Dr. Wrigley, who was my first guest, he covered it really nicely. That's his specialty. But I realized that you also spoke a lot about this, not only in your tweets, but in your website, because I went through your website and I read your personal story. I'm more interested in your work with clients because, as you said, you're a man, so for you it was easy. But did you perform fasting? And they say always men exercise, and that's why they have. Is it possible to do, I'm just gonna now concentrate on body composition, to have bigger muscle mass, less fat, and normal bone density without exercise, or is it necessary?
I mean, I don't have comparison apples to apples, but I know most people that I work with, when they come to me, they're so unhealthy that exercise is the last thing on their mind. So we do most of the weight loss and the benefit not exercising. Eventually, as they get better, the exercise comes as second nature. They want to exercise. And men are the same. Men are not losing weight because they're exercising. They actually haven't moved in a long time. Just changing the food environment gets them there. So it's more of an 80-20 rule in my head. Like, 80% of the effort is food and you get 80% of the results. And then later exercise and sleep and stress management kind of plays a role, but it's not, you're not gonna, if you just focus on that, you don't focus on the diet, you're not gonna get anywhere. You can have people exercise hours a week with never, dropping 1 pound. And then the minute they start changing the diet, they start shedding weight. But yes, muscle mass is important because it does add to insulin sensitivity. It's a big sink for carbohydrates, especially if you exercise. You can use that to your advantage. If you deplete your glycogen from exercising, and you're more sensitive temporarily, at least, to carbohydrates, and you don't store them as fat. So there's a lot of things you can play with. And strong muscles, stress, you can keep your bones healthy and strong for the long run.
A heart is a muscle, right? When you improve your muscle mass, you also improve the ability of your heart to function as a muscle. So people often forget that, and they think only of the visual muscles, and they think of only resistant training, heavy lifting, etc. But I think there should be a combination or adjustment to everybody. For example, what do you choose as your personal exercise?
I have a power bar in the other room. I do body weight strength training. I'm not too fancy. I do pull-ups, ring dips, squats, push-up. Yeah. So yes, exactly. And I keep it, just make it more difficult, whether it's a one-leg squat or make the pull-ups a little harder, or hold my position and pull-ups or handstand or headstand kind of. So I just kind of do a dynamic exercise. I don't do isolated muscle biceps, something like that for the most part, because I like to keep it dynamic. So I'm not trying to be huge. So I just kind of keep strength. I care about strength and shape too. So.
But you also mentioned that you are doing some type of martial arts.
Yeah, I did. I didn't continue it. I started doing kickboxing and which I enjoyed, and jiu-jitsu. But I did not commit enough to kept doing. And I still go once in a while to classes, but I haven't taken it the next level to train to become really good at it. Jiu-jitsu is an amazing sport. A lot of discipline. It's a mental game. So that's nice. I would like to do it. Kickboxing was fun because it's the muscle used and the the cardio that I get out of it. So I like that.
People can contact you through your website, right?
Yes, metabolichealthmd.com is my website. You can contact me there. You can, if you need to have a quick call with me to see if you want to work with me, you can schedule their call. I'm on Twitter and Instagram mainly, so you can reach me there too.
Excellent. I would like to invite everybody who's struggling. This is the best way to approach. And I'd like to thank you one more time for joining me this evening. For me, evening, for you, it's just midday. Have a great day and stay ketonized to the full potential, but always stay positive. This is what we stay on greekgoesketo, positive. Thank you.
Absolutely. I hope to visit Greece soon. So.
Oh, we too hope, and you will be invited. So we will see how we can manage that.
We'll make it work. All right.